Hey, ladies. So, welcome. I wanted to talk to you today about one of the biggest things that I think is a hurdle for women in midlife who want to make a change, who want to make a transition, whether it is starting a new business, leaving work to go enter a new career, dating, getting a divorce. Lots of changes happen when we sort of wake up to the fact that we have less birthdays ahead than we do behind. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about how do we become empowered as a woman in transition in midlife with money, right? And savvy financial planning is what I'll call it. I think that for me, what really happened was that I realized that everything that was supposed to make me happy, that was supposed to bring me satisfaction, make me feel fulfilled, um, it wasn't doing it anymore. And when I was about 54, I got into a ski accident and I was almost sort of crippled, to be honest. And I was laying in bed for about 9 weeks, 10 weeks. And I had this moment. My mom had died at 64, and I saw this butterfly. I got this message. My mom was going to come back to me in butterflies, and so it just hit me in that moment of like, I heard her voice, like, if you only had 9 years to live, like, would you want to spend it in this Groundhog Day life, like rinse, repeat? And I realized that I didn't even know what lit me up. I was so terrified of change. And money was the number one thing that was freaking me out and keeping me stuck in terms of I had lived in this house in Los Angeles. I had lived there for like 25 years. It represented all my financial security and stability through a divorce, through creating a business. And I remember my dad even used to say, like, remember, you have the house, you have the house. And so part of this reinvention that I was thinking about was leaving Los Angeles and kind of going elsewhere and exploring and adventuring. And I thought, I can't get rid of this house. I mean, it's everything that I have. What will I do without this house? And that's when I realized that there were some steps that I need to go through. And so the thing that I want to just start off with, if you don't watch the rest of this video, is that but you should, is that making a transition or making a change is not a decision, it's a process, right? And you can't just expect to wake up one day and be like, yes, I'm doing it. So the process begins with this one outcome, which is, what does life look like when I want to wake up every day and feel like life totally blows my hair back? And so that is the framework, right? Like, not just when I'm on vacation, not just when I'm at the spa, not just on the weekend, right? And I'm like brunching with my girlfriends or I'm spending time with my partner, but like, what would it look like if my peak experiences were most of my days, right? And so how do we then reverse engineer that so that we can live life on our terms that lights us up, but also we have financial security and stability, because that's the practical and that's the dream, and they have to come together. So the first step in the process is that we have to really understand like what our needs are and who we are right now, because the life that you have today was probably not designed for who you are now, right? You had a plan, you had a vision, and that is amazing. And then we evolve and we change. And so we wake up and we're like, oh, this is a life that was designed by someone else, like a different version of me. So we have to look at, and this is based on this book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. This was like a really great takeaway that I applied to this part of my life, was that what really is the essence of me, right? Like the core, right? And then what is the essence of what I need in my life? Emotionally, physically, spiritually, intellectually, right? And that intellectual part is, of course, financial stability, independence, and clarity and stability in that area, right? So as part of that, we have to really start to get clear in the way of, who am I now? right? And digging deep into the parts of us that have been lost. I was just teaching a mindfulness class to a bunch of brand new personal development newbies. And they were sort of saying, like, well, the essence of me, I mean, what am I? Like, I don't even know the answer to that question. Like, who am I really? Like, what do I care about? What are my values? And questioning them, like, are they mine, or are they the ones that I was taught or told I had to adopt, or that society told me I had to care about? And so the strategy is, like, I'm looking for long-term life that blows my hair back. I'm going to be intentional about it. And when I know that I have a structure, like a process I'm following, and I don't have to make a decision, that creates that first part of security. And the financial piece is going to be part of that process. So it's really super important. So the process that I put together to do this is what I'm calling the starting over process, the SAP. Is that right? SOP, SOP, the SOP. And when you get in the process, the best thing about it is that it starts to make you actually feel revitalized and alive and enlivened and that vitality again, because when we're younger, we're in creation mode. Like, we're creating a life that we love. We're like creating a plan to go to school or start a career or have a family. And we're like creating, but the older we get, we just get stagnant often, right? We're just like on autopilot. So the starting over process actually, because you're beginning this reinvention, actually allows you to feel like you're almost reverse aging. It's the anti-burnout secret, because you start getting so excited about what is, that what could be, and you start working toward that in a way that I'm going to explain, that the dissatisfaction you have starts to dissipate. I have a client that I just am working with, and she started, and she's like, went on a trip to Portugal, and she came back and she was like, oh my God, I literally can't do my job one more day. I got to get out of here. I want to retire. Like, I'm done. I'm out. Like, I got to escape. And we started this process, and we just had a session yesterday. And she's actually, over the course of about, we say 8 months now, has a retirement date, and there's a plan in place. But the thing that she said, what happened was, is the process of doing this starting over process, right, is that she started to shift her attitude and her experience of her work so that it didn't cause her anxiety, worry, stress, because she was now in that creation mode and working on that thing that made her really, really, really excited. So that's a really, really important piece of this whole thing. And so when you think about what it is that is going to really light you up and blow your hair back, that this part of having this creative plan is going to be really, really important, really super important. So, okay. So let's talk first now about these challenges that come up, right? Because you're like, yeah, Marni, that sounds really awesome and that sounds great, but like, let's talk about real life. So there's a lot of challenges around this because of our finances, right? And for one, like, for a lot of you, you may be in a career plateau, right? You're like kind of bored, you want to change, or maybe there's forced circumstances like a layoff, right? And so a lot of those things can be really daunting, right? And they make you feel insecure, right? Like facing unemployment at this stage. And so what we want to do as part of this whole process, and this is what I did with my client who I just was telling you about, is that one of the first things we did was really getting clear on, like, what are her finances? What does that look like? How do we actually have a plan, so that it's not just in your head, right? But that you actually are looking at what are the details of that. Another topic that people really get like, oh my God, how could I make a change, is they're caring for aging parents, right? And there's a lot of financial and emotional tolls of that. And so all of those things have to be part of the plan, so that instead of just being like, that's a reason why I can't, we actually look at all of these things from this place of creation and possibility. And we start to actually brainstorm and ideate ways that we can work around this. By the way, remember that this whole process involves a lot of testing and experimenting, so that you're in the journey right, of your reinvention. And that journey might coexist while you're taking care of aging parents, right? So it's not that you're waiting to start figuring it out until, right, like things are settled at work, until I feel like my parents are stable or they've passed. The other thing that a lot of clients deal with is college tuitions, right? And financing children's education. And so again, all of these things that we're talking about, they're reasons not to look at transitioning or creating your transition. But what I really want you to understand is that because of this process, what we do is we just line up all of these challenges, right? And then we're ideating and running experiments about how we're going to manage these things. And also, when you take it out of just like a worry or a fear that's just floating around your brain, right? You actually are able to put it out and address it. And often, when we do this, we find out that we can be in duality. We can manage these things, and we can also start thinking about what's next for ourselves, which is really, really important. Um, Other challenges that you might think like these are reasons why I can't do this. I'm just going to list them so that you can understand that these are actual real fears that need to be addressed. That's maybe catching up on your retirement, right? Or you don't feel like you have enough. We talk about like divorce, right? Or if you're widowed. We're thinking about like, how long will I really be here? And the economy, right? There's lots of things that we want to really look at, even estate planning, right? Like actually getting this part of your life in order. All of these things are part of saying, here I am, I'm ready to look at these things. And I'm going to do that while I'm visioning, ideating, experimenting, and creating. So what happens is that even though you're dealing with this stuff, your intellect needs you, your brain needs you to deal with it, and you're in creation mode. And that creates peace. That creates joy. That creates this feeling like I have so much ahead of me and I'm so excited to do it. Um, so last thing, the benefit of doing it this way, right? Of having the starting over process and going through the pieces is that you're able to design your life, right? And have it align with your financial goals without blowing up your life, right? And this is the best strategy I know for smoothly transitioning into a new phase in your life, whether it's downsizing, changing careers, moving, right? Without the financial strain and worry. This process that I've developed, right, is really important, again, because most people start at the end, right? They're like, okay, what am I going to do? And your conscious mind doesn't even know what is possible. The beyond your wildest dreams life, the life that blows your hair back, might be in your subconscious. And when you have a process that you work through and you give yourself the time and the space to do that, and you have an inside out approach to your midlife reinvention, then everything feels exciting. And that's honestly, in my opinion, how you reverse aging. Your cortisol goes down, your stress goes down, you feel alive, you feel enlivened, you have something to talk about. You're not just sitting around the lunch table talking about illnesses and what so and so is doing and the kids. I mean, that's all great, right? But like, what's next for you? So, most important thing to end with is, why is this so powerful? I've written a book. It's coming out in 2025, and it's called Your Radical Living Challenge: 7 Questions for a Meaningful Life. And it is relevant here because where I started with you was that what we think was supposed to make us happy or feel satisfied often isn't that, right? We wake up and we're like, oh, should be happy by now, or not, right? Because we've been chasing the wrong thing. So one of these spiritual questions, which actually helps you create a meaningful life, success in a way that's meaningful, is, what did I create? And as we age, we stop creating. And creation is life-giving, revitalizing, and affirming. We create in so many ways, right? And experimenting, testing, ideating, right? Like imagining, going through a process is creative and creating. And that is life-giving, right? And so beginning the journey is part of what makes life feel like it's meaningful, right? And doing it in a way where you can align your financial goals and your financial planning with your dream lifestyle without sacrificing joy today is ultimately how you live life on your terms starting now, right? So I hope this was helpful for you. I'd love to hear your own your questions about your finances, about what's stressing you out. I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram at Marni Battista _. I'd love for you to come find me on Facebook, Marni Battista, and I want to hear your questions. Again, this isn't saying that none of those financial concerns are not important. You can't just like blow up your life and like, move to Australia. It's what's the process that you're going to walk through so that you can look at where you are, you can get intentional, you can create a plan, and you can start designing so that you don't have to wait to start living life on your terms. We'll see you soon. Bye.